What's up, YouTube? I'm Sage Valentine. Let's chat all about CBS's Big Brother Season 22 All Stars 2, week number 7. So let's get down to it. The fight between Davon and David was not a big surprise to me because I knew it was going to happen. The only disappointing part about it, as far as I was concerned, is that all it did was show their cards to the other side of the house. But keep in mind, that is not the reason why Davon was evicted this week, as you know, and that had nothing to do with it. Don't believe the edit. All of this is happening according to plan. Apparently, these people have a boot order, and I'm not talking about the rumors about the pre-gaming alliance. I'm talking about they were in the house talking about who was going to get booted and when. And they all agreed that Davon should go in week 7, so I knew it was going to happen. It was extremely irritating to find out that Kevin was the reason why that fight happened. Because Kevin decided to run to Danny and tell Danny what David told him regarding the splitting of the votes and how that would affect Danny's game. He had no reason to run to Danny. I'm not even sure what Kevin is doing this season, and I'm a fan of Kevin's gameplay from season 11, so I'm not sure what he's doing. But he's been doing a lot of that this season, and he is the reason why Nicole Anthony essentially ended up getting evicted from the house. If you don't believe me, go on Twitter and find out, because there are plenty of receipts for that. So Memphis ended up winning the HOH, and I already knew how it was going to go, as I said, because Davon was being nominated. But also, Memphis was going to act all big and bad, like he was going to make this huge, big move, when essentially he was going to pick from the pool of Davon, David, Kevin. And he was going to create some sort of lineup, backdoor somebody. I knew it. It was nothing that was surprising. The craziest thing was that David knew that Danny and Nicole were the reason why Davon did not trust him, and why they essentially ended up, him and Davon ended up really parting because of those two. And it's amazing how Davon trusted Nicole after Nicole stabbed her in the back. But it was also kind of frustrating to watch her trust Danny when I know and I've seen that Danny has been dragging Davon, throwing her under the bus for everything, only to hear her about a week ago talk about how she wanted to work with Davon. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And when Davon's able to watch the videos of her week and Ian's week, she will see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so we got to a taco night segment. Then that morphed into a have-not segment because Davon and David had to choose replacement have-nots. Davon chose Christmas. David chose Cody. Cody took it well. Christmas did not. Christmas doesn't take anything well this season. I don't know why she was chosen as an all-star. She ended up being pissed. She initially thought that Davon was going to pick Kevin. And she was talking about how she can't wait to do it to Davon, just like you're not going to get a chance to do it because Davon was, what, this week? Evicted. So we get to a segment of Danielle and Nicole and Christmas talking about how they want a woman to win Big Brother, which is hilarious considering those three women have done everything they could to sabotage every single woman this season. And I'm not saying that to throw shade at them or anything. For those of you who don't have the feeds, they literally are the reason why the majority of the women are out of the house at this point. Because they went along with everything the guys were saying. And anytime a girls' alliance popped up, they ran right back over to the boys and told them about it. So we see Davon and Kevin wondering who Memphis is going to nominate. Davon's still pissed at David. David tells Kevin that Nicole and Danny are playing them. And he said, you know what, since Davon doesn't believe me, she'll find out when she's out of this house. So we end up seeing Memphis taking David aside and offering him a deal. He assured that David would be safe as long as he promises that he would not play in the veto, and if he did end up playing the veto, he wouldn't use it. But he said that they have to keep their little plan or their little agreement silent. And if David does not run his mouth, then he remains safe. Unfortunately, David's like, listen, if I get the veto, I'm going to save either Davon or Kevin. Well, in the end, Memphis ends up nominating Davon and Kevin. And he did that because of the veto last week where Davon saved Kevin, right? He said he gets along with everyone, but it's still the game. Really, those two are pawns so that he can backdoor David. Now, Davon said she saw this coming and she'll have to win the veto. Kevin said, maybe I can survive this fourth time. He says that he has to win the veto. And David said if he gets picked for veto, he will save a friend. Then we get to episode 21, and you know how these episodes are where they end up repeating the reasons as to why the house guest was nominated. I feel like these are different diary room sessions where the producers and production talk to these individuals. But anyway, Memphis said that he needed 2 people to nominate it and basically the whole veto situation of last week gave him the excuse to nominate Davon and Kevin. And really, he wants David out of the house because David messed up his game. I don't know how David messed up his game, but anyway. Davon says she's not surprised she has to win the veto. Kevin said he's a professional on the block, and he's like, if anybody has any questions about being on the block, come to me. Memphis lies to Kevin and said that he needed an excuse to nominate him and Davon, and that whole veto situation was the excuse. As I said before, Davon was going on the block regardless. It was a question as to who she was going up against. But Davon was going there regardless. And he said to Kevin, you know, you got the benefit of the veto, now you get the wrath. My thing is, why are you nominating Kevin and Davon for the veto situation when that had nothing to do with your game? See, Memphis is a wild card, but Memphis's problem is that he thinks he knows more than everybody else in the house, and eventually that's going to come back around to bite him in the butt. I'm Team Enzo, for those of you who don't know, because Enzo's staying off the radar. Enzo's good. He just needs to bathe a little bit more, but he's good so far in the game. So game-wise, I'm with Enzo. Anyway, Danny's talking to Cody, and she's like, I told Davon not to use the veto. And I'm just like, but she was going to be targeted anyway, whether she used it or not. So she's going out of the game after making her own decision, which is cool. So Cody and Enzo decide they want to keep the nominations locked in so they can have a smooth week. They want to be boring, basically. So Kevin and Davon realize that they are out of the loop of everything that's happening in the house. And Davon says that she realizes Memphis is going to backdoor David. And she comes up with this plan for herself and Kevin to not pick David for house guest choice. They should pick Nicole and Danny. Now, Kevin and Davon have this little moment where they're happy that they met each other and they are going to be close friends. I thought that was actually cute. And it kind of took you out of the game in a positive note. I was cool with that. So it came time to pick the veto players. And Memphis chose Tyler. Davon got house guest choice, so she chose Nicole. Kevin got house guest choice, so he chose Danny. Davon feels like she could depend on Nicole. Danny felt like she could help. I mean, Kevin thought that he could get some help from Danny. So David sees Danny and Kevin did not pick him for house guest choice, therefore they don't trust him and they don't want to work with him. So Tyler's suspicions were apparently confirmed about Davon and Kevin working with Danny and, no, I put a K and I should put an N. Tevins. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Tyler's suspicions are confirmed about Danny and Nicole working with Davon. His suspicions? You mean production? Telling him that that's a possibility? So Danny doesn't want Davon to go. She talks with Memphis, and Memphis reveals that he wants to backdoor David. He also tells Tyler, Nicole, and Danny this. But Tyler decides to run to Cody and tell Cody that he doesn't like Memphis's backdoor plan, and it's not a good idea to get rid of David. They need to get rid of Davon. Memphis tells Davon and Kevin that David is the backdoor plan. No, Memphis tells Day and Kevin that David is the backdoor plan and everyone else is just going to throw the competition. And another thing that Cody told Tyler was that David isn't a threat competitively and he is all alone. So they could kind of pull him in. So we get to Tiger Zing, the veto competition with Zingbot. But before we even get to the veto competition, Zingbot has to do his thing. So his zing for David was, I can't believe I'm on Big Brother All Stars. And I can't believe you're here, David. To Enzo, he says, what's more pathetic than a man in his 40s calling himself Meow Meow? Nothing. Zing! To Memphis, he says, most people think of you as Dan's number 1, but to me, you're more of a giant number 2. I was cracking up. Cody, you are a perfect 10, but enough about your IQ. And then Cody went to ask what was considered a high IQ, and I'm just like, oh no. Like, no, Cody, no. Danny, Zingbot says, from your first season, you look like an old pro. Now you just look old. I was just like, I have no comment for that one. Christmas gets this zing. What's the difference between you and the holiday season? One is cold, stress-inducing, and annoying, and the other one is the holiday season. Kevin, Zingbot came up with a nickname for him that captures him perfectly. Boring. To Tyler, he says, what do you call someone who says the real winner gets the girl and not the $500K? A liar. I was like, Zingbot, my goodness. To Davon, he said, you've done 3 seasons of Big Brother, 2 seasons of The Challenge. Which reality show do you plan to lose next? Now, that was an easy zing. That wasn't even a hurtful zing. It said nothing about how she looked, how she sounded, nothing. So clearly, Davon is liked by production. Does that mean that being liked by production automatically means you're going to get a smooth sailing ride through the game? Not always. But Davon's definitely liked. So to Nicole, Zingbot says, I wrote a song for you. Here comes the bride. She loves to whine and cry. And every time I hear her voice, I want to effing die. I was cracking up. Because I saw the video before I actually saw the episode. And it just made me laugh even more. And then Zingbot said, Mazel Tov Zing. And I was like, oh my gosh. So we get to the veto competition, which is called Zing Botanical Garden Zoo. And the winner of this was Tyler, because he made it through the garden maze in 2 minutes and 55 seconds. After him was Danny with 3 minutes and 41 seconds. But before Danny was Memphis with 3 minutes and 29 seconds. Nicole with 4 minutes and 22 seconds. Kevin with 5 minutes and 33 seconds. And Davon with 6 minutes and 53 seconds. So Davon and Kevin already know Tyler's not going to use the veto. Memphis tells Davon and Kevin he's still with the plan, and he acts like he doesn't know about Tyler's relationship with David. Then all of a sudden, Tyler convinces Memphis that it's not a good idea to use the veto, so he's not going to do it, and that he is going to keep the nominations the same. Did I F this up? Yes, I did. Every time. Forgive me, guys. Tyler won't go along with the plan to backdoor David. Memphis says everyone talks too much, which is why he kept the plan to himself, the whole backdooring David plan. Tyler says something to Memphis about Davon and Kevin might be working with Nicole and Danny. And he said that, you know, the idea of Nicole and Danny being chosen as the house guest choices for both Davon and Kevin was shady to Tyler, sketchy. Everything is shady and sketchy to Tyler, to be honest. Memphis is concerned. He says to us that Nicole and Danny are working side deals and they should be focused on the alliance. I'm just like, if they're doing that, then one of them should be backdoored, correct? Wouldn't that make sense? Clearly it did not. So Kevin wanted Tyler to use the veto on him. Now this happened during the veto ceremony, and Kevin made a speech, said that he's hopeful that Tyler will use the veto on him. David, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm messing everything up. Forgive me. Davon says this plan has been in motion for a while and won't ask Tyler to use the veto on her, so whatever happens, happens. She's like, let it ride. Tyler decides not to use the veto. Memphis says that since he cannot backdoor David, he's going to cut off Nicole and Danny's side deal. Tyler says that he's no one's beta, so he's not going to continue to go along with everything Memphis wants to do. And Kevin said, one of us is going to go and he'll survive again. I'm like, yeah, you're going to survive, and then you're going to end up on the block again. Unless you win HOH or win the veto, you're going to be back on that block again. Christmas says she has no idea what's going on, but she's happy that Davon is nominated. And Davon said that she's going to fight, and clearly that backdoor plan was crap. So we get to tonight's episode. And basically, Tyler says that he didn't use the veto because Davon's going to come for him. I mean, obviously she is. It's the game. Memphis thinks that Davon, Danny, and Nicole are working together. Christmas said it's obvious that there's a secret alliance between Davon, Danny, and Nicole. Kevin said his chances are 50-50 in this game, and Davon said she will not roll over and die. Davon has this moment where she basically says that she is an inspiration, or she was told she's an inspiration to a lot of young girls, particularly black girls. She feels like she let her fans down. She feels weak and drained. Danny wants Davon to stay. Davon's like, I'm not going to campaign. I'm not going to give them the satisfaction. I'm done with this. All right, so Memphis tells Kevin that no one's going to vote for Davon to stay after her little speech at the veto competition, so you're good. Kevin says things are looking very good for him, but he knows that Nicole turned on him and Davon. And he tells Davon this. Davon claims that Nicole will tell the truth, and Nicole tells her another lie again. I did not vote to evict Ian. Nicole says she wants to tell her the truth, but she cannot, Davon says that she's going to give Nicole the benefit of the doubt. And that's where Davon went wrong. Well, the committee starts plotting. That's what Julie Chen said in tonight's episode. She said Memphis wants to create 2 different alliances. Well, she didn't say that. Memphis eventually reveals that he wanted to create 2 different alliances, one with Enzo, and then one with Enzo and Cody called the Wise Guys, and then one with Enzo and Christmas called the something guys. I forgot the name of it, but Christmas was so caught up on the fact that it had the word guys or men or something, and I'm just like, Christmas, just be quiet and just join it. Just stop. So Enzo is basically Enzo wants to work with Memphis because Enzo knows that he can beat Memphis. Quiet as it's kept, Enzo can beat basically anybody that he goes up against in the final 2 because everybody likes him. He has good jury management. Danny doesn't want Davon out, so she tries to campaign for Davon. She tries to do it to Christmas, but Christmas is adamant about getting Davon out. And then Christmas decides to tell Memphis to guarantee David a final 8. And that David could take shots at Nicole and Danny for them. Now, if David end up doing that? No. And on a side note, all these D's for some reason keep getting me like all messed up, so I apologize. But right now I'm talking about David taking shots at Nicole and Danny. I don't get the impression that David's going to end up doing that. So Christmas says to David, "You're safe with me. We'll protect each other." They're going to have an alliance. I don't think David fully, I hope he doesn't fully believe the malarkey coming out of her mouth. So David, okay. Christmas reveals that she knows that Davon, David, and Kevin voted for Ian to stay. And I'm just like, how do you know this? Unless production told you, like, how would you know something like this and be this accurate? It could have been anybody. And David is happy that Christmas believes him, so he now has an ally. So we get to now, and we get to basically these are the final speeches. Davon goes all out in her speech. She includes Black Girl Magic all into her speech. But some of the things that she said definitely needed to be said. Davon said that Cassandra Walden, rest in peace Cassandra, Danielle Reyes, Tamar Braxton. Well, see, Cassandra Walden was the first Black woman in the game of Big Brother. Danielle Reyes made it to the top 2. She didn't end up winning. Tamar Braxton was the first Black woman to win Celebrity Big Brother. So these are 3 iconic Black women, even though every Black woman who's been on here has been very iconic. And Davon wanted to be the first Black woman to win. She said, "It's possible, we can do it, and it can be done." She apologizes to all the Black players who have played in the game. She said she won't go out without a fight. She said that jury management is important. She basically said that Nicole stabbed her in the front this time and not in the back. Kevin talks about diversity and inclusion, representation matters, including gender. And Kevin said that Davon made his dreams come true. We get down to the vote. It's a vote of 5-2. Tyler, Enzo, David, Cody, and Christmas all voted out Davon. Meanwhile, Nicole and Danny were the only 2 that voted out Kevin. And Davon pretty much left, and she hugged everybody, and she seemed calm, cool, and collective, which was a really positive thing, because normally people get upset, they have regrets, but it doesn't look like Davon has any regrets, so that's a good thing. So we get to her interview, and she's relieved she's out of the house. She was sick of the house guests. And she said that Kevin was kept in the game because he can be puppeted, and that's true. And she was like, once the house guests saw the real Davon, they decided there's nothing we can do with her. She's got to go. She listened to the goodbye messages. Kevin said Davon made his time in the house bearable. Tyler said there was a 6-person alliance, and Danny and Nicole were going to have you come after me. No. Davon was going to come after him by herself. It wasn't those 2 that were pushing her. Okay, it says, David says he wouldn't have gotten to this point without Davon. And Nicole said, I voted Ian out. Please give me a chance outside the house. I'm just like, Nicole, like, are you serious? Nicole has burnt so many bridges this season. Like, if Davon ends up forgiving her, I'm fine. But if she doesn't, I won't even be surprised. And Davon says to Julie Chen she knew about the alliances, but she was very surprised about Nicole and Danny, like, stabbing her in the back. Davon says she did not want to be bashing David and calling him a liar on TV as a Black woman calling a Black man a liar. Davon told Nicole to be honest, and obviously Nicole was not being honest. Davon says she loved Big Brother, she loves being black, and she's ready to go home. I enjoyed her interview, and her speech that she made before she was evicted is extremely iconic, regardless. So basically the twist is that Will is the house guest that moved into the house next door. The veto competition and the HOH competition consists of power or prizes, and the house guests are going to have to pick one of the two. And the final twist is that 3 people are heading to the jury house this week. And I truly hope that Big Brother allows that to happen and does not in any way sabotage that. Like, just leave it be. Just leave it be. And in regards to the favorite player this season, because I was talking to Nick, I'm not sure if I said it earlier this video, because when I do these videos, I tend to forget what I said prior until I watch the video. But Tyler's the favorite this season. Does that mean that he's guaranteed to win? No, but he's definitely the favorite. You can definitely tell. But anyway, let me know how you feel about this week and basically about everything that happened Big Brother-wise, and whether you'll watch next week, because I know I am, because I really want to see those twists and I want to know what's going on. But I love you all. Take care, and so glad I finally got this video done. Made a few flubs, but I finally did it after 50 times of trying to do videos. But anyway, I love you guys. I'm a lady of my word. This will be up soon. I know it's after 12 o'clock, but it'll be up soon. Love you guys. Take care, and see you for my review for week 8. It's going to be a good one. Peace out, guys. Bye, guys. Love you all. Bye.